How's it going? My name is Judd Lienhard. I'm a speed and performance coach, and today I'm going to take you through an entire total body workout using just one dumbbell. All of the movements I'm going to show you today are in my fitness app, so if you're interested in more exercises and workouts like this, just go to my website, juddlienhard.com. It's easy to find the app on there, and there's over 52 weeks of workouts inside of that app. All right, today I'm gonna do a total body workout with one dumbbell. I chose a dumbbell that's 80 pounds. And why did I choose that weight? Well, it's about 1/3 of my body weight. And that is the weight that allows you to do the broadest variety of exercises. It allows you to strength, power, and potentially muscular endurance stimulus just from one weight. So let's get into it. So for total body workouts, a good way to structure the workout is to go power, strength, hypertrophy, or muscle size in that order. So it's good to start after your warm up with power-based movements. And the good thing about one dumbbell is it's easy to do power-based movements with that. So we're gonna start this workout out with a nice power-based movement that we can do with just one dumbbell. So I like to choose movements that don't require a lot of mobility because I don't know what your mobility is or is on that given day. So one of my favorite movements to do with a dumbbell is just a simple dumbbell shoulder clean. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the dumbbell evenly between our feet. We're gonna grab it by stacking our hands. So I'm gonna grab one hand in the middle like I'm gonna do a single arm row, and I'm gonna take the other hand and stack it on top of that. What I'm not gonna do is interlock my fingers, okay? It's very uncomfortable and potentially dangerous, okay? So once I get that nice grip, I'm gonna get in a nice squat or almost deadlift position, just like I'm gonna do almost a power clean here. And what I'm gonna do from there in one fluid motion, I'm gonna jump it up, rest it on my shoulder and help stabilize it. If you get good at these, what you can do is kind of release it here and that dumbbell will just land right on that shoulder. And then when you go down, you're gonna turn the dumbbell over, let it drop close to your body, push your hips back, and then catch it with your hips, not your lower back. So I'm gonna do 6 reps to demonstrate here. Sometimes it's good to stand up with it a couple times, get that range motion, and then one fluid motion, up, rest it on your shoulder, down, rest on your shoulder. Remember, this is a power movement, so it's not supposed to be super heavy. You're supposed to move your limbs quickly. Okay, another great option for a power movement with one dumbbell is just the dumbbell clean. Both of these movements are staples in my app. I use them quite frequently for simple power exercises that most people can do. Now to do the dumbbell clean, you're gonna get directly over top of it, stand the dumbbell up, hook the dumbbell like this under the top. Now, when you go to clean it up, remember, it's not a curl. This weight is much too heavy to curl. You wanna pull with mostly straight arms and use your hips. And you're gonna jump this dumbbell straight up, and then it's gonna kind of float here, and you're gonna drop down and get your hands under it, catch it, and let that drop you into a full squat. So here, jump, catch, squat. Jump, catch, squat. So you get the power movement of the clean, but you also get a little bit of a loaded eccentric there. And that's gonna help prep you for later on when you have to do some of your strength moves. So those two movements are more on the light power spectrum. You could probably do those for 20, even 30 reps to exhaustion, not that you should. But 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps is a good starting place there. And then you're gonna wanna move more towards the strength spectrum, still working power. And a good option there is to take those bilateral moves that we just did, where you can use both legs, and turn it into more of a unilateral movement. So a great thing that I like to follow with those cleans or those dumbbell shoulder cleans or those goblet cleans is a single arm clean to press. Now, this weight might be a little heavy for you to do it pure single arm where you're not assisting at all. So it's okay, and I'm gonna demonstrate that, when you jump it up to assist at the bottom with that other arm to help support and stabilize it. Now, a great thing about this is I don't like to be perfectly squared up all the time. Sometimes I like to take a staggered athletic stance, okay? So I'm gonna tilt that dumbbell on its side here. I'm gonna jump it into the clean position. Now, a lot of people, when they do this, they try to curl it up. Don't do that. You're gonna use your hips, jump and drive your elbow up, and then you're gonna tuck your elbow under and let the dumbbell turn with that. And then once you're here, remember the dumbbell doesn't have to be way out here. It can be nice and tight to your body. You're gonna assist it with that other arm so you can breathe and it helps stabilize it. You don't have to, but it really helps. Then you're gonna hinge your hips, jump, and as you jump, you're gonna let go of it with this hand and press straight to the ceiling. Control it on the way down, help catch it with that arm, and then on the way down here, you're gonna flip that elbow up and ride it down. So it's gonna look a little bit like this. You're gonna start here, jump, assist, up, catch, flip. Jump, assist, hips, up, control it down, flip. One more time. Jump, catch, hips, assist, write it down, flip. Somewhere 3 to 6 reps, do both sides obviously, 3 sets of that. With total body workouts, it's important that we work those spectrums, power, strength, and hypertrophy, but it's also important that we work every major movement pattern. So far, we've worked the squat pattern with the cleans, we've worked a hinge pattern with the dumbbell shoulder cleans, and then with the single arm clean to press, we've worked the vertical pull and we've worked the vertical push pattern. So we've already knocked out a bunch of critical basic patterns that we need to do in a total body workout. So now, moving on to strength, we're gonna work a different movement pattern. So let's think about what we haven't done so far. Well, we haven't done lunges or step ups or single leg squats, so we can do that. Now, this is one dumbbell and it's not really heavy enough for me to do like bilateral strength movements. So I'm not even gonna try to use it for that. But it is heavy enough for me to do unilateral strength / hypertrophy movements. So I'm gonna use this for what it's suited for. And let's say today, I'm gonna do a single arm Bulgarian split squat. Now, I don't have to do that. I could do a step up. I could do a walking lunge or a front foot elevated reverse lunge. I have a lot of options, but it's the same basic concept for all of them. So whenever it comes time to do a unilateral movement with just one implement, whether that be a dumbbell, a kettlebell, or whatnot, people always wanna know, what hand do I hold it in? If I'm doing my left leg, is it better to hold it in my left hand or my right hand? And the answer to that is depends on what stimulus you want. So if you hold it in the same side arm that you're doing, it's a little bit more stable. And if you feel like the weight is a little too heavy for you that day, that allows you to push that weight, in a way that makes you feel safer about the movement. The good thing about holding it in the other arm is it creates a cross pattern stimulus. So if I hold it in my right arm while I do my left leg, the muscles that help me with my frontal plane have to engage, especially like my oblique and things. So that's very good for that reason. There's a third way to hold it though, if you want, and you can just hold it like a goblet. And what that does, it forces you to keep a much more upright torso, which will turn the movement into a more quad dominant movement and work your core potentially a little bit better there. But today, for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna be holding it in my right hand, but just know that it's not right or wrong, it's just one way to do it. And if you wanna hold it in the same side hand, it's fine. And if some trainer comes up to the gym and tells you that's wrong, just say, well, Judd disagrees with you. You can or can't flip them off, I don't care. But all right, so first of all, people struggle with knowing how far their foot should be away from the bench. A simple solution there, sit on the edge of the bench, extend your leg straight, wherever your heel is there, that's gonna be where your heel should be more or less in the stance. If you wanna move it a little bit closer, it'll be a little bit more quad dominant. If you wanna move it a couple inches further, it'll be more glute hamstring dominant. So a nice neutral place to start is just right there in the middle. So after that, you just stand up, always pick up the dumbbell with 2 legs first, get it nice and balanced. And then when you're here, what you're gonna do, after I catch my balance, is start by pushing your knee forward and your hips back, and then you're gonna let your knee continue forward and your hips back, so you get a nice stretch and just come up like that. Go kind of slow. These are slower than the power movements. This is a hypertrophy-based exercise, so you're gonna do 8 to 12 reps, stopping 1 or 2 reps shy of failure. Obviously, do both legs. 2 to 3 sets is fine. So when you do a total body workout, a lot of people ask me, should I do my upper or my lower body first? The standard answer is to do your lower body first, because that's the largest muscle groups, or the largest muscle groups are down there, and they take the most energy to do. So you generally wanna do the most energy demanding exercises first in order to work out. But if you're already pretty happy with your legs and you feel like your upper body needs to come up a little bit, there's nothing wrong with turning that around and doing the upper body portion of the total body workout first. So for today, because this is the standard way to do it, I'm gonna finish my lower body before I get into my upper body. So we've worked a lunge pattern here for hypertrophy, a little bit of strength element in there too. Now I wanna work a hinge pattern for strength and hypertrophy. Once again, the weight probably isn't enough to get a good strength stimulus if I do a bilateral hinge like an RDL or a deadlift, but it is enough for me to get, at the very least, a very good hypertrophy stimulus if I turn that into a unilateral movement. So that would be something like a unilateral deadlift. Now you can do these totally single leg, but a good option here, assuming you have a bench or something to put your foot on, is to do a foot supported single leg RDL. Now how I do that is I turn the weight over and I take that assisted grip, just like I did, and then I prop my back foot up on the bench so I can lean back against it a little bit. See, I'm letting my butt go back. And then what I do is I just trace that leg down till I get a good stretch and come back up. If grip strength isn't an issue, you can grab it with one hand, but if it is, just use two hands. Now I'm trying to use mostly my front leg here. I'm just using my back leg for a little bit of help at the bottom maybe and some balance assistance. And now that really lets you, because you're not focused on balance so much, really focus on the movement and getting a good glute stretch. You wanna feel this a little bit in your hamstrings, but you wanna feel it a lot in your glutes. Keep a little knee bend there. Just drive your hips forward on the way up. Once again, 2 to 3 sets each leg, somewhere in the 8 to 12 rep range. Now, if your glutes are a weak point for you and you wanna do a little bit more volume for your glutes, I'm gonna show you an exercise that is good to superset with that single leg RDL. But if you don't feel like your glutes are a weak point, this isn't one of those exercises you have to do, okay? So it's just a single leg dumbbell hip thrust. So you're gonna take the dumbbell, you're gonna put it someplace comfortable on your leg until you get situated. Then you want your foot far enough out to when your hips are fully up, your shin is more or less perpendicular to the ground. Then you're gonna take this and stabilize it with both hands so it doesn't fall off. You're gonna raise one leg off the ground, lower that butt, lift your toe a little bit to reinforce this, drive through your heel while you drive your hips up off the ground, squeeze the glutes tight, and then lower slowly. Now my hip flexors are still a little tight, so I'm having a hard time getting up all the way, but you definitely don't wanna try to hyperextend your back to get there. Just squeeze your glutes, and how high your hips can come up is how high they're gonna come up. There you go. And then if you need a little bit of assistance, what you can do is just B stance it. So you put this leg on the ground for balance and a little bit of assistance. Try to stay on your toe here, but this is still the primary working leg, and you're just gonna still drive mainly through this leg, just using that other leg for a little bit of help. 2 more. Once again, 2 to 3 sets each side, 8 to 12 reps, nothing fancy. We've done several leg exercises, but one thing we haven't done so far is do anything that trains movement on the frontal plane, which is just side to side. Okay, so a good option there is a dumbbell Cossack squat. This is one of my favorite movements, regardless if I have a whole gym or not, and I normally like to do it after my heavy leg movements. So all you're gonna do here, take a nice wide stance, wider probably than you think you need to go. Then you're gonna do the same grip. Don't interlock your fingers, grab it with your strong hand, go underneath with the assistance hand here. Just like this. And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna lean to one side, elbow inside your knee, that leg mostly straight, come up and over in one fluid motion, and just go down onto the other leg. Should feel a nice little stretch in your groin, just a little bit of extra work for your quads and your glutes. You're gonna feel this in your whole leg, it's not just for your adductors. Just do about 6 to 8 reps each side, go nice and slow. If you need to let your heel come off the ground a little bit, that's totally fine. And then if you wanna get a little bit more hamstring, just turn that toe up, you'll feel the stretch in your hamstring. And then that'll finish out our leg part. Okay, we finished out our leg part, and you notice that most of those exercises we did not have to superset. The reason for that is your legs are a big enough muscle group where you know, for movement quality and stuff, generally you don't need to, and sometimes maybe you shouldn't superset those moves with other moves. Supersets just means you do 2 exercises back to back of opposing or different muscle groups. But with our upper body, since they're smaller muscle groups, it's good just to condense the time of the workout and to get a bit of a cardio benefit to superset antagonistic, or in other words, opposing muscle groups. So one of my favorite things to do is a bench press, a dumbbell single arm bench press variation with a single arm row variation. Now, I'm gonna show you 3 different ways to do this because one of them assumes that you have an adjustable bench, but if you don't, I'm gonna show you an option there as well, both with a normal bench and on the ground. And then I'm also gonna show you a way to add a band to this if you have a band and this weight isn't quite enough for you. All right, so this is one of my all-time favorite chest exercises regardless of how much equipment I have for a lot of reasons. but it's an incline single arm dumbbell bench press. So you're gonna grab the weight, set it on your knee, use that leg to help kick it up. I like to keep this foot a little bit more under me and press hard with this foot. You're gonna start a little bit outside of your center of mass. You're gonna push to your midline. Use this oblique to help protect your back and stabilize. That's one of the reasons this movement's so great. It's a cross pattern or anterior oblique sling movement. Come down nice and slow, keeping the dumbbell level to the ground, and then push it back to your midline. Pushing hard with this leg the whole time. This oblique and this leg do a lot of the work. Get a good stretch here in your pec to your midline. Don't let the dumbbell tilt like that. Keep it level to the ground. When you're done, use the other end to help out, lower it to the leg, set it back on the ground. So I'm gonna show you a way you can make this movement a little bit harder, just in case that isn't enough weight for you, just by adding a simple band to the movement. Now, the first thing you're thinking is like, well, what am I gonna attach the band to? Nothing. There's a way to wrap it around yourself to create some extra resistance. So what you do is you go underneath your mid back here, and then this is important. You can do it this way. A lot of people's uncomfortable on your thumb. So you normally wanna see how I reached under, and now I'll do it again. I reached under the band, and so it now runs across the length of my hand. It's a lot more comfortable for my hand, and it also lets my elbow move freely, so it's not wrapped around the outside of my elbow. Now, I can control how much tension's in the band by how much slack I pull with the other arm. So this makes it harder, and then I can have less slack by just letting it come this way a little bit more. So you can control how much extra tension you have. This is a lot of tension. That's just a little bit of extra tension. And even during the movement, if I lift my back up a little bit, I can reduce the band tension during the movement to get a couple extra reps, or adjust it if it's just not feeling, it's like a little heavier on that day or something and I just misguessed a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna give myself a fair amount of tension, reach down, grab it here, and you'll notice the band stretches on the way up, adding more tension on as you get higher. The band eases on the way down for that variable resistance. And that adds a good 20 to 30 pounds of weight at the top to that dumbbell. So this is as hard for me as doing about 110, maybe even 120 pound dumbbell at the top. So now let's say that you have a bench. It's just not an adjustable bench. It's just a normal, cheap, flat bench. You got at like Dick's or a sporting goods store, and it doesn't adjust, okay? You can still do these. It's very hard to do them lying back and do a flat, single arm bench press with enough weight to give your chest and pecs a good stimulus. It's too much weight for your foot. But one thing you can do is you can turn perpendicular to that bench. And a good thing about that is since your butt is unsupported, you have to use your glutes to hold your torso up, or you can kind of sink down a little bit on the way down and then drive your hips up as you press that dumbbell up. And just like with the incline bench, if it's not enough weight, you can do that little trick where you wrap that little band around your back as well. So you're just gonna take the weight. Another little trick is when you're picking up a dumbbell for safety, try not to go outside of your leg to pick it up. Always straddle it here and reach inside of your leg. That puts your lower back in a much stronger position. A lot of people hurt their backs when they go to pick up a dumbbell. So here, pull from inside your leg, get it here. Now balance it with that other hand as you scoot your butt off the bench. Now, a lot of people, they're too far down on this, so that bench is in the middle or even above their shoulder blades, which ends up putting a lot of strain on their neck. So you wanna keep the edge of the bench at the bottom of your shoulder blades. Now you're gonna use both hands to get it in position. Now see how my elbow is at a 45-degree angle, so it's actually below the level of the bench a little bit, so I'm not limited range of motion. I'm gonna sink my hips a little bit and then just drive the weight up, come back down nice and slow, good little hip drive the weight up. Single arm, butt unsupported dumbbell bench press. You can do this with a kettlebell as well. Same thing, 6 to 12 reps each arm. Keep the movement slow and controlled on the way down. When you're done, grab it with both hands, gently let it fall to the ground so you don't strain your bicep. Try to look cool getting up off the bench. Okay, so what if you don't even have a flat bench? Well, good news, I got something for you there too. Just a dumbbell floor bench press. Now, these have benefits and drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is you can't get quite as good of a range of motion. It's really not that big a deal though. And a benefit of it Your elbow can go all the way to the ground, so you can give yourself little breaks during the set if you need it. And also you can use it to press from a dead stop position, which helps your rate of force development, which then may indirectly help like things like power and things like that. So you wanna do at least some of your weight training from a dead stop if possible, and not always rely on that stretch reflex or that amortization phase to help you get out of the hole of the lift. So you're just gonna go on the ground here. Now, there's a technique to picking it up, just like you use with a kettlebell. You don't wanna use one hand only to pick it up. You're gonna be in that kind of the fetal position here, support it with the other hand, pull it across until you get into place. See how I did that? Now, you're gonna have a little bit of a hip drive here. Start here, drive it up, control the weight down. You don't have to go to a dead stop, or if you want to, you can go to a complete dead stop and then try to push it from that dead stop off of the ground. There's nothing wrong with a good dumbbell floor press. It's a very functional exercise, especially if you're like an MMA fighter or somebody. Now, when you're done with the weight, same thing, control it here, use this other side arm to help bring it to the ground, roll with it, and then roll away from it. Okay, I like to superset that move with an antagonist move, so a single arm dumbbell row. And like most things, I have my own way that I like to do dumbbell rows, and I'm gonna show you. First way, I'm gonna assume you have a bench. The second way, I'm gonna assume that you don't have a bench. So a lot of people, when they do their dumbbell rowing, what they'll do is they'll be on the bench like this, have one leg up. Sorry, it's the other one here. Can't even remember how most people do it like this. And the arm is here and they're rowing like this. It's a very awkward, unstable way to do it. That's not how we naturally roll, or row rather. I'm not even sure how that whole thing got started. So what I like to do is be off of the bench a little bit, put the dumbbell in the middle of my body and form a little triangle between this foot, and the bench. I'm gonna internally, this leg is gonna be back. I'm gonna internally rotate a little bit, be on the ball of that foot. I'm gonna internally rotate that foot so they make a little bit of a compression. I'm gonna put my hand right in the middle of that triangle, but then I'm gonna sink my hips to make sure it's my butt and my hips that take the load up and not my lower back, keeping my back mostly flat. Now, when I row, a lot of people like to row out here because it works more lats. I don't really worry about this. This is a pull exercise. So you wanna pull from the strongest possible position, which is a little bit of lat, a little bit of rear delt, a little bit of rhomboids, a little bit of trap, just a nice natural pull. What you wanna make sure you don't do those like pull, row like this. So you do wanna kind of row it to your hip. And another way you can row here is you can start pronated and you can supinate a little bit and row to your hip pocket. So you get a little biceps in there at the end as well. So start here with your shoulder blade forward. When you row, you really wanna think with your shoulder blades, not with your arm. Okay, that's a big tip that helps people, because if you row with your arm, it's gonna look like this. If you row with your shoulder blade, you're gonna get a lot more back in there. Start here, nice base support, pull it into that hip pocket, and then just stretch that lat out. Squeeze. Good stretch with the lat, good squeeze. So if you don't have a bench, I do something called an unsupported row, but really you're supporting yourself a little bit with this arm if you want to help out your lower back. But if you want to challenge your back a little bit more, it's totally fine. Just take that arm away. Very similar, nice wide base of support here. Squat down, this leg will be dropped back a little bit. You're helping yourself out with this elbow. Start here and just row it into your hip pocket and back down. Very similar to using a bench. You're gonna get a lot of leg work into just by holding that isometric squat position while you do this. If you wanna challenge your core a little bit, just take that arm off, challenge your lower back a little bit. Okay, so we're pretty far into the workout. You know, right now we've done our power stuff, which is a dumbbell shoulder clean, a goblet clean to squat. We've done our single dumbbell Bulgarian split squats. We've done our single leg RDLs that are supported. Option is like a single leg hip thrust in there, and then a dumbbell Cossack squat. And then for our upper body, we've knocked out a superset between our dumbbell incline, single arm dumbbell incline bench press. I've shown you several options in case you don't have an adjustable bench to use. And then we've superset that with a single arm dumbbell row, and I've showed you 2 separate options for that. Now we're gonna get into a vertical pull pattern, so like an upright row. And the good thing about the upright row is it also gets shoulder abduction, so it's gonna work your your side delt a little bit. It's gonna work your traps, things that you haven't directly worked too much so far. You've worked them a little bit with the cleans. We're gonna get a little bit more of a hypertrophy stimulus now as well. Now, I like all different types of high pulls, but with single arm dumbbell high pulls, if you guys follow me or you guys use my app, you're gonna know that I love staggered stance, single arm dumbbell upright rows or dumbbell high pulls. The reason I love these is this is gonna be your pull hand. Your left leg is gonna be in front, okay? And when you're down here, slightly internally rotated, what that does, that works your posterior oblique sling. So it's gonna work this glute, it's gonna go through this oblique, through your lower back, into this lat, out the other side. Now, just like the dumbbell incline presses work your anterior oblique sling, this works your posterior oblique sling, which is very important for movements like throwing, hitting, things like that, where it's a cross pattern movement where between high and low, left to right, you have this cross pattern of tension, if you can see that. So these muscles are all lengthened, these are lengthened, the lat is lengthened, and then this is coiled and tightened. Same thing here, these are fully contracted. So equal opposite. So I pick the dumbbell up, take a nice staggered stance between my legs. I feel tension in my glute, drive my hips forward as I drive this dumbbell up. Kind of row it into you and then between your legs in a slightly curvilinear fashion using your hips. That's that. So we've done all of our main movements with the workout, all of our compound movements. We've worked all of our major movement patterns. So I'm gonna give you an optional exercise to finish with. Let's say you wanna work your biceps a little bit more. There's a simple way to do that too. You're gonna stand the dumbbell up on its end here. And then when you curl it, you're gonna curl it with open hands. Now, this seems frivolous, superfluous, I guess is the word. But when you open your hand like that, a lot of the weight is supported by the distal part of your hand, which makes that lever length longer and makes the movement a little harder. Now, if that's too hard for you, the cool thing is you can just take the dumbbell and you can move the dumbbell back more on your palm. You'll shorten the lever length and make that movement a little bit easier. That's one way you can control how hard the movement is, simply by the placement of the dumbbell in your hands and the positioning of your hands. So if you've never done these before, they're surprisingly difficult. You're gonna stand up with it here, curl it up, and then back down. And that's the workout.